You ever notice how we love talking about generations? Just not this one. Boomers get debated like history textbooks. Millennials get psychoanalyzed to death. Gen Z gets studied like a social experiment happening in real time. But there's this whole generation in the middle that barely gets mentioned at all. Generation X, born roughly between 1965 and 1980. They're your older coworkers who somehow never panic. Your parents who seem emotionally distant, but not cold. The people who helped build the internet and then quietly stepped away from posting about it. And here's the strange part. Gen X might be the most psychologically misunderstood generation alive. To understand them, you have to go back. Picture it's the late 70s. You're 8 years old. You come home from school, open the door, and the house is empty. Both parents are working. No phones, no cameras, no way for anyone to check if you're okay. So you let yourself in, make a snack, do your homework, and wait. By the early 1980s, this wasn't rare. A study published in the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry found that by 1984, around 7 million children between the ages of 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school. That's not a phase, that's a generation. And growing up like that didn't just make Gen X independent, it taught them something much deeper. You can't always assume someone will be there to save you. That empty house trained their brains to understand consequences early, real consequences, no buffer, no emotional processing sessions, no long talks about feelings. When parents got home, the rules were clear. Step out of line and you paid for it immediately. Psychologists call this a high contingency environment. Actions and outcomes were tightly linked. Do something dumb, something happens, fast. So Gen X learned to think ahead, not one step, 3 steps, which is why they often seem overly cautious or pessimistic to younger generations. But here's the thing, it's not pessimism, it's pattern recognition. They grew up watching adults promise stability, then divorce rates exploded. Companies preached loyalty, then handed out pink slips without blinking. They were told, work hard, follow the rules, and life will work out. And then they watched the rules change mid-game. So yeah, psychologists might label it defensive pessimism. Gen X just calls it being realistic. They hope for the best, but they quietly expect the rug to get pulled out, because it usually was. That mindset explains a lot, like why you don't see them oversharing online. Gen X didn't grow up broadcasting their lives. If you messed up as a kid, maybe a few people knew, and then it faded into an embarrassing memory. No screenshots, no viral clips, no permanent digital record. So the idea of putting your whole life online doesn't feel fun to them. It feels dangerous. Not because they don't get technology. That's a myth. They helped create the digital world. They just learned early that privacy equals safety. Less exposure, less vulnerability. That's also why Gen X mastered irony. Sarcasm isn't just humor for them, it's armor. Make a joke, downplay it, laugh before it hurts. And honestly, look at what they grew up with. Cold War anxiety, duck and cover drills, teachers calmly explaining nuclear war like it was bad weather. When adults insist everything might explode at any moment, but also tell you not to worry, you learn to live with contradiction. You learn emotional distance. And yet, despite all of this, Gen X developed one of the strongest work ethics you'll ever see. They just don't talk about it. They don't post motivational quotes. They don't announce hustle culture. They just work. This was the generation of paper routes before sunrise, bagging groceries, flipping burgers, calculating change in your head when the register broke. These weren't building personal brands. They were early crash courses in responsibility. A 12-year-old delivering newspapers wasn't symbolic. They were responsible for an entire neighborhood. They also watched their parents get crushed by corporate restructuring. So Gen X never believed in company loyalty, but they did believe in competence. They figured you can't control layoffs, but you can control how valuable you are when they happen. That's why so many Gen Xers have multiple income streams, not because they're chasing freedom, because they've learned nothing lasts. Here's the paradox at the heart of Gen X psychology. They are deeply independent, and quietly dependable. They won't ask for help. They'll figure it out themselves. They've been doing that since they were 8. But if you need help, they show up. No announcement, no credit, no post about it afterward. That comes from friendships formed out of necessity. When adults weren't around, peers became lifelines. Their relationship with authority is just as complex. Gen X respects competence, not titles. If you know what you're doing, they're all in. If you don't, they have zero patience. Because they grew up watching authority figures fail. Watergate, Iran-Contra, the mishandling of the AIDS crisis. They learned early that power doesn't equal wisdom. Economically, they've been hit over and over. The oldest Gen Xers were building careers when the 2008 crash hit. The youngest graduated straight into the dot-com collapse. Repeated instability leaves a mark. Research published in the Journal of Adult Development shows Gen Xers are less likely to seek social support during stress, not because they lack relationships, but because asking feels like failure. They are incredible in crises, but that strength often comes from refusing to depend on anyone else. Their relationship with knowledge was shaped the same way. Before Google, information had weight. You didn't look things up. You searched card catalogs. You spent hours in libraries. You worked for answers. Cognitive psychologists call this deep encoding, when effort makes information stick. They learned to fix things because that's what you did. Bike chain slipped, you fixed it. TV broke, you opened it up. With enough patience and a screwdriver, the world felt understandable. Now they're watching their kids grow up differently. Constant supervision, helicopter parenting, lives documented from birth. Gen X gave their kids the attention they never had, but part of them worries they went too far, because in their worldview, visibility equals vulnerability. The truth is, Generation X may be the last generation that truly understands boredom, silence, being alone with your thoughts, solving problems without instantly Googling the answer. They're not better than anyone else, just shaped by a rare moment in history when the old world was collapsing and the new one hadn't fully arrived. They're the bridge generation, and bridges don't get celebrated. They just stand there, quietly holding everything together, expecting nothing in return. And honestly, that might be the most Gen X thing of all. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing. And if you want to support deeper psychological breakdowns like this, hit the join button. It genuinely helps more than you think.